Good evening, everyone. I'm Riley King, and welcome to my evening broadcast right here on the Riley King Network. Welcome to Good Evening, New Hampshire. Let's begin. No criminal charges to be filed against fired Manchester police officer. Let's take a listen to the video from WMUR News 9, Jennifer Crompton.
No criminal charges will be filed against either of the two Manchester police officers fired last year for what the department described as breaches of trust.
Based on the totality of the evidence we were able to uncover, we do not believe that there was any crime that we could prove beyond a reasonable doubt.
Last February, Officer Darren Murphy was fired. As part of that internal investigation, the department says it learned of allegations of misconduct against another officer, Aaron Brown, who was put on leave and then fired in April. The Stratford County Attorney's Office was brought in to look at any potential criminal behavior, overseeing 2 teams of state and local police, generating thousands of pages of reports. 2 women came forward with allegations, some going back to 2009.
The list of charges that we were looking at included sexual assault allegations against both of the officers. It also included witness tampering against one officer. It included possible criminal mischief against the second officer, as well as official oppression, and even went so far as looking at the possibility of insurance fraud.
The county attorney says former officer Aaron Brown chose to participate in the investigation, while Murphy did not. One of the 2 alleged female victims also opting out, their names not made public.
We want to make sure that that victim survivor, if she chooses to come forward at some later time, has the right to do so.
The Manchester Police Department has issued a statement that says in part that it's confident that the Stratford County Attorney's Office has conducted a thorough, fair, and impartial investigation. We're live in Manchester. Jennifer Crompton, WMUR News 9.
Okay, and there you go on that video and that report. Man imprisoned for killing wife seeks information on how restoration spent. Let's take a listen to the video from WMUR News 9, Andy Hirschberger.
Horrible crime. James Robarge beat his estranged wife Kelly to death in 2013 on the day she filed for divorce. He was sentenced to 30 years in prison and as part of that sentence ordered to pay $25,000 in restitution to 4 people considered victims of his crime. Now Robarge is contesting that restitution, saying he wants a more detailed accounting of where that money is going.
Here we are 4 years after the sentencing hearing, and the defendant is bringing this all back up for the victims.
Robarge isn't challenging the amount. That money has already been paid to the victims through the Victims Compensation Program, and Robarge is expected to eventually pay that agency back. He is asking the court to show how that money was spent for things like funeral expenses and lost wages.
We're just seeking to be able to confirm that the expenses they claim to have exist and were paid on behalf of the individuals in the case. We've made it very clear that we're not seeking any private information.
But prosecutors say they are, and providing the documentation they want will violate the victim's privacy.
The information that verifies those claims is really personal information. It's information that touches upon medical expenses, mental health issues and expenses, and employment, financial records.
Prosecutors say if any documents are turned over to James Robarge, they will ask that a restraining order be placed against him for anyone named in that paperwork. In Newport, Andy Hirschberger, WMUR News 9.
Okay, and there you go on that video and that report. New Hampshire congressional delegation speaks out against government shutdown. Let's take a listen to the video from WMUR News 9, Ray Brewer.
And all three lawmakers say that there's no doubt about it, this shutdown is continuing to impact Granite Staters, and both Pappas and Custer say it's actually having the opposite effect of what the president wishes. On the House floor, Congressman Pappas recounted the stories of hardship he heard back in New Hampshire from those who draw a government paycheck or depend on federal services. Similar tales from Representative Custer, who said that she is hearing from groups who deal with domestic violence that they may have to cut back on their services. While Senator Jean Shaheen referenced the impact the shutdown is having on air traffic controllers and said their families in particular seem to be hit hard, and says it seems the president is the only one who doesn't want the shutdown to end.
I urge President Trump, Majority Leader McConnell, and our Republican colleagues to take up these bills to reopen the government. I believe we should reopen the government. Let's do our job so that the rest of America can do theirs.
The president says this shutdown is necessary to protect the American people. Yet every story I hear in my district demonstrates this shutdown is making us less safe.
Air traffic controllers, TSA agents, DEA agents, and even, ironically, Border Patrol agents are not receiving their pay, and our safety is at risk.
Senator Maggie Hassan is scheduled to speak shortly. We'll have what she had to say later this evening, beginning on News 9 at 5. In the studio, Ray Brewer, WMUR.
Okay, and there you go on that video and that report. Castro visits recovery center in Laconia after launching presidential campaign. Let's take a listen to the video from WMUR News 9, Adam Sexton.
Presidential candidate Julian Castro made his way through downtown Laconia Wednesday, stopping to visit a local jeweler and a coffee shop before heading to navigating recovery of the Lakes region. Less than 2 years after opening its doors, it has provided support to more than 1,000 people from all walks of life struggling with addiction.
The disease of substance use disorder does not discriminate.
Castro, the former Secretary of Housing and Urban Development under President Obama, promises more help if he's in the White House.
Washington needs to be a strong partner to states like New Hampshire that have had quite a challenge with the opioid crisis. And if I'm president, I look forward to being a strong partner.
It has been a whirlwind first visit as an official candidate for Castro, a crowded meet and greet in Somersworth, and a high-profile speech in front of community leaders at Politics and Eggs, where he laid out his progressive agenda and later told reporters he is the polar opposite of the president.
I represent the antidote, the antithesis of Donald Trump.
Carlos Cardona says Castro is setting an important example for a voting bloc he believes is under siege these days.
It's super important that we have representation at every corner, because there's always a Latino somewhere in this country that is feeling a little bit rejected by this administration. So it's super important that we have somebody like him to say, yes, you can.
Today, Secretary Castro said, well, he wishes early voting states like New Hampshire and Iowa were a bit more diverse. He believes they still do a good job vetting the candidates, saying people here, quote, take their politics and their policy very seriously. Live in the studio, Adam Sexton, WMUR News 9.
Okay, and there you go on that video and that report. And we're going to switch gears now and head into sports. In sports this evening, May lifts Londonderry boys. The Londonderry High boys basketball team needed everything senior Ethan May offered. The team on the way to Tuesday's 43-31 home win over Alvrine of Hudson. May was the lone lancer in doubled figures with 27 points, including 10 during a 16-10 fourth quarter in favor of Londonderry 4-2. Way to go, Londonderry. And switching gears now, and let's talk about your weather. Weather right now is broken clouds, 34 degrees. Your weather for tonight, turning windy and colder, lows in the single digits. Your weather for tomorrow, sunny and chilly, highs in the low 20s. And your weather for tomorrow night, cloudy with snow showers developing after midnight, low 17 degrees, winds light and variable, chance of rain, chance of snow 50%. Sorry about that, everyone. No rain, snow. And now let's take a look at your New Hampshire event calendar this evening. Your arts and entertainment time. Flying film series Ben is Back is at the Flying Monkey Movie House and Performance Center tonight at 6:30 p.m. Spotlight New England tonight at 7 p.m. Welcome to the debut of Spotlight New England. This is a talent competition for the Seacoast and all areas of New England. Competitions is open to ages 6 adults. Kids are not competing against adults. Audition dates are January 8th to the 15th and January 22nd, 2019 from 7 to 9 p.m. at Dance Ive Studio, Somersworth. Competition dates will be February 9th at Restoration Church. February 16th is Restoration Church. Fully committed. Sorry about that. And those are all your events this evening in New Hampshire. And that is for this edition of Good Evening New Hampshire. I hope you all enjoyed this edition of Good Evening New Hampshire, and I'll see you back here tomorrow for another edition of Good Evening New Hampshire. Good night, everyone. Bye.